Thanks for joining the Double Overtime podcast with your host, Evan Davis. Wow, what a disaster that game was. Holy shit, that was terrible. I figured I would remix the Chicago Bulls intro just a bit for you because I think this would have been more appropriate based on what the hell we just saw.
And now, the starting lineup for your Chicago Bulls.
Wow, bro, that's crazy.
Oh, the Chicago Bulls. Man, that game that we just watched versus the Atlanta Hawks and the Chicago Bulls, that may have been one of the worst games of basketball that I have ever seen by the Chicago Bulls. I mean, that was terrible. To start your season off, giving up 83 points in the first half to the Atlanta Hawks, who were missing a lot of their new key players like Clint Capella, Rajon Rondo, Chris Dunn, who I am not fond of, everyone knows, but he was going to be somewhat of a role player in that team. They were missing all three of them amongst a few others. You let them score 83 points in the first half? Are you kidding me? 83 points. Man, that was a bad game for the Chicago Bulls. I really don't even know where to start besides just saying that first quarter, you can't let a game get out of control that fast. I mean, the Hawks shot 67% in the first quarter, right around 67%. The Bulls, I believe, were about 2 for 11 from three-point range in the first quarter. You can't be doing that. I mean, that's just not good three-point shooting. They had, I believe, 9 turnovers in the first half. And that was one of the key points that the broadcast had brought up before the game had even started. You cannot be giving up turnovers. And the Bulls went ahead and gave up 9 turnovers in the first half. That is absolutely terrible. And it just can't happen if you want to win a basketball game. It can't happen. You can't turn over the ball that much. And a lot of those turnovers led to points on the other end, right? Because the Bulls weren't getting back down the court once they had turned over the ball. And so I think what I'm going to do here is just kind of go over what I saw from an overall standpoint briefly, and then I kind of want to break it down at the player level. So to start things off, I want to talk about that defense that the Bulls played. That was absolutely terrible. That is unacceptable. You cannot expect to win a game playing defense like that. They were not calling out screens. They were not communicating. They were not playing help side defense. I cannot tell you how many times I watched Wendell Carter Jr., who I will talk about here shortly. Wendell Carter Jr., his help side defense was atrocious. There were times that guys were getting wide open drives to the lane because Wendell Carter Jr. has got his feet planted in the ground as if he is a tree and he is rooted deep into the ground and cannot move. I mean, it was so frustrating to watch him. His help side defense is absolutely terrible, and it's unacceptable. What are you doing in practice, man? Like, get your shit together. I mean, you're already on the hot seat for your offense, and now you're about to be on the hot seat for your defense because it's just not acceptable at the NBA level. You can't be the starting center for this team and play help side defense like that. It's just, that's part of the role as the center, being down low in the paint. You need to realize when it's time to step off and lay off the big man that you're guarding, trying to keep him away from shooting a three-point. No, you step in and you stop the small guy from getting an easy layup right in the paint. It's just, I don't understand. So Billy Donovan is really going to need to work with Wendell Carter Jr. when it comes to his defensive schemes, and now he's going to need to work with him on the offense stuff too, because Wendell Carter Jr. all over the place is just a mess. And I'll talk about him a little bit more in depth here in a second. The other thing that I really struggled with watching this game was all the foul trouble. A lot of guys were in foul trouble early. Wendell Carter Jr. got in foul trouble. Zach Lavine was really badly in foul trouble. He had 4 fouls in the first half. That just can't happen. I know a lot of that had to do with Trae Young. Trae Young is an absolute baller. That guy is very impressive. He had a great night. Trae Young played 26 minutes and he had 37 points. His 3-ball is just next level. It's like Steph Curry. There's just those guys where they can just pull up like 4 or 5 feet behind the 3-point line and knock it down. You have to guard them. The second that they cross the half-court line, they are within range of scoring. It's straight up the truth. The second that they cross that half-court line, you need to step up. because they are not afraid to shoot. They are extremely confident. I have talked about confidence before when it comes to the sport of basketball, and they are the elite of elite confidence guys. So, when you're guarding Steph, when you're guarding Trae, when you're guarding Damian Lillard, the second they cross half court, you need to be in their face, because if you're not, they're going to pull the shot, and most likely, based on their percentage, they're going to hit it if they're wide open. So that was really it was a fun game to watch Trae Young. I mean, that guy is like the future of the NBA. The NBA is definitely in good hands, but when you're playing Trae Young, not as much fun to watch. So that was a takeaway, was we just really need to work on our defense. And one more takeaway before I break it down by the player level is that this team really should have more chemistry. Watching them on the court, they look like a team that was just put together this year. You wouldn't know that these guys have been playing together for, some of them, 3 years, 4 years. It's just embarrassing, really. They don't look like a cohesive team. They look like as if they all just found out that they can play basketball, and Billy Donovan said, "Okay, you guys want to be the Chicago Bulls?" And they said, "Yeah." And they went out there and they all tried to play together and learn each other's talents on the go or on the fly. And that's a problem. And I think that is why AK is going to blow this team up. The only guy that I think should stay on this team right now, based on what we've seen so far, is Patrick Williams. My God, that guy is very, very good, and he has impressed me a lot. Patrick Williams is 19. He was the youngest guy drafted in this past NBA draft, and he is showing out. I mean, today he played 33 minutes. He had 16 points, 4 rebounds, and 1 assist. He got the start, which was a great thing to see. I'm glad he's starting for Otto Porter Jr., who had a decent game. Otto Porter Jr. was definitely more active. I'll get to him in a second. But Patrick Williams, I'm impressed. His jump shot is so smooth. The way he moves the ball when he's got it, the way he can dribble, he's got a lot of control. You can tell he's got a lot of power. And once he decides he wants to shoot the ball, he elevates so high. He gets over the defender. He's got such a nice arc on the shot that, when you have a good arc on the shot, it actually helps the ball go in the basket. When you shoot flat, that trajectory actually lowers that percentage of the ball going in the rim. So I was very impressed with what Patrick Williams is doing so far. I think he is going to be a Bull for a long time, and he is the only person on this team that I think is untouchable. Everybody else on this team, I am absolutely okay with the Bulls trading. Even at this point, I'm okay with the Bulls trading Zach Lavine, because this team is not going anywhere, and we need to get some pieces for Zach Lavine. I don't want to see Zach Lavine waste his talent on this Chicago Bulls team. I would rather trade him and get some younger players on some easier contracts. Zach Lavine's going to want a lot of money, and he deserves a lot of money, but I just don't think that paying Zach Lavine what he wants right now is going to work out long term, unless AK thinks that he could put together a crew next season and surround Zach Lavine and Pat Williams with a ton of talent and rotational players that will get the Bulls far into the playoffs and potentially make a run into championship. And when I sit here and I say all that, that sounds absolutely insane and crazy, and that's because it is. So I think the Bulls should probably trade Zach Lavine. I said in one of the other episodes that maybe they shouldn't. Maybe they should. I go back and forth. So we'll see what they do with Zach. But when it comes to Patrick Williams, he is untouchable. And going back to Zach, only trade him if you can get some really nice pieces. But I think that's something that they're really going to have to take a look at, because the way that this team looks right now, it's an absolute disaster. Speaking of disaster, I want to talk about Coby White's game. Oh my God, what a terrible game for Coby White. In one of the previous episodes, I think it was my last episode, I talked about Coby White and how he just kind of plays out of control, and that was on full display tonight. Coby White, oh man, he is so athletic, but the problem with Coby White is he puts his head down and he commits to what he's going to do, and he doesn't read what's going on in front of him. So if I'm Coby White, right, he comes up the floor, I'm Coby White, and I'm saying, I'm going to score. And all he does is he puts his head down and he drives to the basket and he tries to score, even if the play makes no sense for him to drive to the basket and try and score because somebody else is open on the wing. He doesn't care. He's going to drive and try and score. And if it doesn't work, he's going to kick it out and try and save the play last minute. And a lot of times it turns into a turnover. And that is the problem with Coby White right now. He is absolutely committed to what he wants to do, and he does not think about what's the smartest play. He's committed to what he wants to do, and he sticks with it. The other problem with that is Coby White then lets that affect the rest of his game. So if he starts playing bad because he's got turnovers and he's not hitting his shot, everything else starts to fall apart. He starts playing bad defense. He starts not calling out screens. He starts missing jump shots. He starts turning over the ball. It all just kind of turns into this terrible implosion of just bad decision making. So I really hope Coby can figure it out. I think this is probably why Thomas Satoransky was starting last season. You're starting to see that Thomas Satoransky plays with more pace. So I really hope that Tomas Satoransky can come back so Coby can learn a bit more from him, especially if Coby's going to remain the starting point guard for the Chicago Bulls, which I hope he does. But once again, like I said, I am totally okay with the Chicago Bulls trading anybody on this team at this point except for Patrick Williams because he's a rookie and he looks fantastic so far. Next guy I'll talk about here is Zach Lavine here quickly. I know we've talked about him here sporadically as far as him being traded and whatnot, but he had a solid game besides the foul trouble. Zach Lavine is, like I said, he's been consistent. He had he played for 25 minutes and he had 22 points. That's fair. I'm totally cool with that. That's almost a point a minute. Once again, if you're doing that those are solid numbers. So Zach Lavine, he's hitting the three ball. He's driving to the lane. He's got such a nice little jump shot. He's just fun to watch, and thank God for him, because if Zach Lavine was not on this team, oh my God, I can't even imagine where this team would be if he wasn't here. So, thank goodness for him. Moving on from Zach, I wanted to talk about Danial Gafford. Danial Gafford has consistently impressed me. He hasn't done anything that's blown me away, but when he comes in for Wendell Carter Jr., it's almost like a little spark, and this team seems to kind of respond to it. I know he came in and he drew a foul on an offensive rebound because he was hustling for the ball. Wendell Carter Jr. is just struggling to get rebounds. He's gotten rebounds for sure, but like offensive rebounds, he's been struggling. He's not in the right place. He's not committing to the basket. Literally, players shoot the ball and he starts stepping back to run to the other side of the court, whereas Danial Gafford came in and immediately went and jumped for a loose ball off, I think it was a missed three, and he got pushed in the back and he went to the free throw line. I think he missed one of the free throws, but the fact that he drew a foul and he made a point, I mean, that's a positive impact in a game, right? And so I would love to see him get that start over Wendell Carter Jr. And speaking of Wendell Carter Jr., let's just talk about him. Man, he is now, like I said earlier, I think I said this, but he's 1 for 17 if you include the preseason on three-point shooting. That is just bad. And I saw him pass up on a few three-pointers this game, which is a sign that he's really lost that confidence, and they were open threes. So I don't know what's going to happen with him. My concern now is that Wendell Carter Jr.'s just game is just really starting to tank, and I worry about trading him. I don't know what we're going to be able to get for Wendell Carter Jr. So what I'm hoping is that we start to see him improve a bit, because if he stays the way he is now, we're not going to get shit for Wendell Carter Jr. Honestly, we'll be lucky to get maybe a first-round pick for Wendell Carter Jr. I don't know. I wouldn't want to give up anything for that guy. I mean, he's not athletic. He doesn't really run up and down on the floor very well. What he was good at before, which was defense, we're not really seeing much of anymore. He's talked about and tried to shoot the three. That's not working. Every now and then he'll commit to the paint and he'll score on like some type of reverse hook, or he'll get a dunk or a lob. That's occasionally. And when he does that, that's refreshing to see, but that's what his game should be. He should be doing that constantly. And we haven't been seeing that from him. He's trying to expand his game in areas that I don't think he should be when he hasn't mastered his game in the paint quite yet. So it's been tough. He's been setting terrible screens. What you see is they come down, they hand him the ball at the top of the key, and he panics. He literally looks around and does not know what to do. He gets it instantly and starts looking for someone else to pass it to before even scoring up to the basket and deciding, okay, this is what I should do. This is who I should pass it to. He just gets it and totally freaks out. And it led to a couple turnovers tonight, you saw, and it led to confusion on the other guys on the team too. I think Coby had a turnover because he assumed Wendell Carter was going to do something when Wendell Carter's head was just kind of in the wrong place, and you could see he was just thinking too much. So it's been tough to watch. I am so disappointed in his progression with the Bulls. I really at one point thought that he was going to be that dude. I thought he had a really high ceiling, and it is just starting to look like that is just not it. Like, it just looks like he's not going to be that guy. So unfortunately, I'm worried about him. We'll see what happens. Long season, but I don't think he should be starting, and it just sucks. But when it comes to Lauri Markkanen had a good game today. It was good to see that he was out there balling. He played for 30 minutes. He had 21 points. That's solid. He was hitting the 3-ball. He was getting rebounds. He had 7 rebounds, 4 assists. Solid game. Overall, he looked great. And I wonder if it's a coincidence that he didn't sign his contract just recently. So he'll be a restricted free agent now that the Bulls have not paid him the money that he was looking for. I heard that there was somewhere of like a $4 to $5 million difference per year that Lauri Markkanen was looking for. I assume that he wanted somewhere in the ballpark of like maybe $20 million a year. That would be my guess. But I am thinking that the Bulls probably offered him 14 to 15, which is what I think he probably deserves. It's hard to believe that he deserves that much, but the way that the NBA is right now, players are getting paid. You look at Jonathan Isaac. I don't know if you guys know who Jonathan Isaac is, but he's the center for the Orlando Magic. He has 2 serious major knee injuries. He had one, I believe it was last year, and then at the end, in this year in the bubble, he tore his ACL. So 2 major knee injuries, and he just got paid a few days ago, 4 years, $80 million. $20 million a year, that is. $20 million a year. He is averaging 9 points a game for his NBA career, and he's got 2 serious knee injuries. So that to me is just, that's pretty crazy to think that guys in the NBA are getting paid that much money. So when you look at that, right, he's averaging 9 points per game, and he's getting paid $80 million for 4 years. Lauri Markkanen, for his last few years that he's been in the NBA, because he was actually in the same draft class as Jonathan Isaac, he is averaging 16 points per game throughout his career. So it's not wrong for Lauri to think that he should be getting $80 million a year, in my opinion. But I just don't think that's the guy I want to give $80 million to. And I think that's what AK is thinking as well. I think that's why they haven't given him that money. The thing about Lauri Markkanen is he's consistently inconsistent. He has a good game, and then he has a bad game. And then he has a good game, and then he has a bad game. So for me, I totally get it. I see why they haven't given him that money. They want him to play it and play the game and see how things work out as the season kind of progresses. So we'll see what happens with him. Some other notable players that got paid out recently were from that class were Jason Tatum, Donovan Mitchell, Bam Adebayo, De'Aaron Fox. Those are all guys from that 2017 class that got paid. They got like crazy extensions though. Jason Tatum got $195 million. Donovan got $195. Bam got $163. De'Aaron got $163 as well. The guys that most recently got paid were from that same draft class were Derek White. He averages 9 points a game, and he got $73 million for 4 years. OG Anunoby got 4 years, $72 million. Luke Kennard got $64 million for 4 years. And Markelle Fultz, who came into the NBA as the number 1 draft pick and was an absolute disaster. I think everybody knows his story. He just completely collapsed once he got to the NBA as far as his jump shot goes. Talk about lack of confidence. I mean, it was a total mental game. And he got $50 million for 3 years. So it is not crazy to think that Lauri deserves $80 million based on these other contracts that you're seeing right now. The guys that haven't gotten paid are like John Collins, also in the 2017 draft class, Lonzo Ball also, and Zach Collins, and John Collins. So none of those guys have gotten paid. Lauri's with them in that camp of they have to prove it this year and see what happens for them with them. But we'll see. I don't know. I'm not optimistic on Lauri Markkanen staying with the Bulls next year. I think he is going to go elsewhere. As one, I don't think the Bulls are going to want to pay him what he's going to get somewhere else. And two, I don't think he's going to want to stay with the Bulls. They didn't pay him the money that he wanted right now, so I'm sure he's a little bitter about it, and I don't blame him, but I don't blame AK for not paying him. So we'll see what happens. As far as a few other players and takeaways from this game, Archie Diacono, such a hustle, good player. He's always everywhere. I like the guy. He's a good rotational piece for now. He's not going to be with the Bulls long term. I don't see it. But just to come in and play some garbage minutes and just be on the floor and die for loose balls and take charges, he's a good player for that. Every now and then, I'm sure there'll be a game where you need somebody like that on the court to kind of, spark the team and get them excited. So I think he's good for that. But other than that, that's kind of all I have for this game. This game was just a total disaster from pretty much start to finish. There really isn't much to talk about. The guys that I brought up, really, there's some positive things that came from the game as far as Pat Williams. But that was about it, honestly. After Pat Williams, it kind of stops. Lauri having a good game, that's another positive. But I don't think he's going to be with the Bulls long term, so I don't really know how much that matters for us other than maybe trading him away this year. If they can do that, he'll be a restricted free agent, so whoever he gets traded to, they'll want to make sure that they can sign him, I would imagine. Otherwise, I don't know why you trade him away or why you would want to take him on unless you're a contending team and you think you can use his talents this year. So with that being said, I think I'm going to wrap it up early. We'll keep this pod even shorter than my last 20 minutes, 21 minutes or whatever. But if you joined and you tuned in and you watched the Bulls game, kudos to you, because that was not an easy game to watch. I'd like to think they're going to get better as the season progresses. I really pray that they do, because that is going to be it's going to make doing this podcast a lot less fun if I have to come on here every single time and talk about what a shit show we just watched. So let's keep our fingers crossed that was just the first game jitters and they've got that out. So the next game that the Bulls are playing, I believe, is the Indiana Pacers. We'll see how that game goes. Once again, I'm not very confident in that game, to be honest. That game is on Saturday, so they have a little break because of the holiday. But, I mean, the Indiana Pacers, I think they've got, Victor Oladipo. They have Miles Turner, Sabonis, TJ Warren, Malcolm Brogdon. I mean, the Pacers are no joke. I think that the Pacers will have a decent year. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they're probably better than the Bulls, and they're definitely better than the Bulls that we just saw. So if that Bulls team shows up in Indiana, we're going to get blown out again. Sabonis was an all-star. Victor Oladipo, we all know he's a very special talent. He had a major injury, but he came back last year, and he looked pretty good. TJ Warren went off in the bubble. There was all the talk about, was he that bubble MVP for a while there. Him and Devin Booker were balling out. Malcolm Brogdon was the Rookie of the Year. Cassius Stanley was a great player. I can't remember. I think he went to either... Oh, God, where'd he go? I think he went to Duke. Where did he go? Let me look this up real quick because that's going to bother me. Yes, he went to Duke. So I think that game could probably be another loss for the Bulls, and I don't know when the Bulls are going to win a game. I mentioned earlier in this pod, they also have Justin Holiday, who was a Bull. So... and they have Jeremy Lamb. Man, the more I look at the Pacers roster, I just don't see the Bulls winning, unfortunately. So we'll see. We'll reconnect when I do my next pod, but it's just not going to look good, I don't think, for the Bulls in Indiana on Saturday. But when we do connect, I look forward to kind of recapping that game. Hopefully we have some more positives to discuss. Looks like we're about 24 minutes in, so I'm going to wrap it up here. But if you listened, thanks so much. I really enjoy doing this. This is kind of turning into some sort of therapy, I think, for me, because as a Bulls fan, you need therapy to get through a season. And if you're a Bulls fan and you're listening to this, hopefully this is kind of therapy for you too. So once again, thanks for joining the Double Overtime podcast. I am on YouTube. If you're a YouTube person, you can just look at the audio waves and listen to my voice that way. I'm on Spotify. I'm on Apple Podcasts. I'm on Stitcher. I'm on Pocket Casts. And I'm trying to get on Amazon right now, so I'm not sure if it's approved yet, but it should be there soon. So I'm trying to get everywhere, trying to get the word out that I'm doing this, and it's fun for me, and hopefully it's fun for you. So with that being said, thanks again for joining, and we will talk soon. See ya.